All right, we are at the top of the hour. So let's get started. I'm going to leave that question out there, which is what have you gained so far from our training video club? This is week 2 in a 3-week series. So welcome you all. I'm excited to spend the next 30 minutes with you. So I appreciate you tuning in, or if you're watching the recorded version, I appreciate you watching the recording. We'll make this as lively as possible. I have a discussion question going in the chat box if you'd like to sign in from there. And the question is, what have you gained so far from our training video club? And one way to think about it is to go back to those assignments that we had at the very beginning. And one of them was think of 3 things you'd like to gain from this. Have we given you any tools, whether it's confirming something you know, adding a missing piece, maybe seeing things from a new perspective, or even new content. So a few of you are chatting in. Excellent. And we love Laura. That's awesome. Thanks, Kelly. I appreciate that. Okay. Good stuff. I've got a few things to share with you. So while you're typing, I will launch this. Well, we're going to go video only. Some of you could see it, and I couldn't see chat when we did this. So that's all right, though. I'm going to minimize this. I'm going to work a little bit off script, and we'll see how this goes for a moment. So I wanted to review our assignments, and we had a few assignments. One was to review what you've learned so far. And the second was to watch the Listening with Empathy video. And then the third, the really important one, was to apply the Laura technique. Now, if you have any questions for me, as before, there is a Q&A button. It might be easy for me to spot the questions if you answer them through Q&A. However, we're using the chat just to interact with each other. So we'll do it that way. And my apologies for the technical glitches. We're having a lot of these days, I guess. So let me try this one more time. I'm just curious. I think I might know the reason this is not working, but we'll see. We'll give it one more shot, and then we'll sadly give up on it if it doesn't work this last time. Okay. Okay. Not working. I think some of you might be able to see it, but I can't. All right. Well, thanks for your patience. So I did have a question for you, though. What I want to do is, and some of you are probably waiting on me. I really like to hear from you in terms of what have you applied so far. So that is the chat question that's kind of on the table here. I'd like to show you just a piece of our assignment. So a quick video clip from the course. And what I want you to specifically look for is the Laura technique. Now, I know everybody watched the video, right? The Laura technique is a 5-step process. We'll break this down in just a moment, but the 5 steps are listen, acknowledge the customer, understand where they're coming from, or their situation, relate to the customer in some way. And we go through all of these steps. Those are the empathy steps. And then take action. So that's Laura. What I want you to do, play the short clip. Fingers crossed it works. And we'll see if we can spot the Laura technique in action. So let's see if I can share this with you. I'm a little nervous now. I have to tell you, things aren't working the way they're supposed to. Okay, so I've got this up and running. And let's see, I've lost the chat box though. So I hope you can see it. And if you cannot, bear with me. I'm going to play the video and then we'll come right back. And if you can't see it, I apologize. So let's see if this works.
How may I help you?
Yeah, you guys screwed up my drink order again. I was here 2 days ago and you did the exact same thing. I asked for 4 pumps of vanilla. You gave me like maybe 2.
Well, I'm sorry we didn't get it right, but I'd be happy to remake it for you and add more vanilla.
Yeah, I just don't understand why this keeps happening. Like 4 pumps of vanilla, how hard can that be?
Yeah, no, I completely understand. I'm actually a peppermint person myself. Can't get enough of it. This was a vanilla latte, right?
Yeah, non-fat.
Okay. You hang on to this one. I'm gonna make a new one. That way we can do a little taste test afterwards and make sure I get it right. Cool?
Okay, I hope that you saw it. I hope that you heard it, the video. Looks like a couple of people said I can see it. I think that you were referring to the video. I hope so. All right, it worked well. That's good. What happened on my end, I completely lost the chat screen, which is kind of my way of checking in with you. So I'm glad that the video worked. Here's my question. I'm gonna be quiet for a moment here. I want to see if you spotted the Laura technique in action. And if so, what were a couple of specific things that you noticed the barista doing? So I'll be quiet for about a moment. And if you will, via the chat function, let me know what are a couple of specific things you noticed the barista doing to use that Laura technique. Awesome stuff. And some of you might still be typing. A lot of you saw that the acknowledgement. Notice though, and this is the key to, I think, to empathy and some of the later lessons we learned. In customer service, people sometimes make a mistake of jumping all the way to act before we deal with empathy. And if you remember from some of the earlier lessons, customers have two types of needs. They have emotional needs, they have the rational needs. The rational need is remake the vanilla latte. The emotional need is I'm upset about this or maybe other things. We have to deal with that emotional need first. And if you noticed, even in that short interaction, the barista was able to get the customer to take it down a few notches. You know, she gave him initially a little bit more anger, and then he said, I'm a peppermint person myself, can't get enough of it. You know, and that kind of weirdness, but with her using his personality. And by the end where he said, let's do a taste test, she's like, okay, you see that all that anger meter just keeps sliding down and down and down and down. And she's much, much calmer by the time that he does this. Now, what's interesting, a little behind the scenes, obviously I'm not the actor in here, but I wrote the script, and I wrote the script based upon actual scenes that I've seen in coffee shops and other places, both as a customer service professional and as a third-party observer. When people use this technique and they use it well, they're listening, they acknowledge that customer, they start understanding and relate to them. That's all part of empathy. And then the customer's anger slows down. I hope you notice this though. It didn't go away immediately, and it didn't go completely away, but it did cool down. And so by the end of the interaction, which you may have seen in earlier videos, the customer was feeling a lot better, and certainly wasn't at the anger level that she was at the very, very beginning. So it's awesome that you all saw that. Now, here's another question for you via chat. And that is, I want to know, what was your, let me do a poll first. Let's see if this poll works. I have a poll for you based upon the assignment for this week. Let's see if I can launch it. Okay. So the question is, have you had a chance to use the Laura technique in the past week? And the answer is yes, no. And no might mean I know it, but I didn't have a chance, or no, I don't know it. But I guess I don't know it is, who's Laura? So I'll give you a moment to vote. Have you used this technique? And while you're voting, I want to just going to read some of the chat responses as well. By the way, Kelly points out the lady irritates me every time. And I agree. I agree. She irritates me too, which is really great acting, right? All right. I don't seem to be getting any responses to the poll. I wonder if you are able to see it. And if so, okay, cannot see a poll. Wow, Zoom. You're letting me down, Zoom. All right, we're going to do this via chat. I'm sorry you can't see it. I've got it open. I've got it. We might have some technical difficulty. I feel better now. Maybe it's not me. Okay, so here are the questions. And we're going to do this via chat since Zoom polling does not seem to be working. options are, the question is, have you used the Laura technique in the past week? And the options are yes, no, or who is Laura? So let me give you a moment via chat to respond. All right, we've got some already. This is good. We can improvise, can't we? And some of you sadly haven't had opportunities to use it. You're not interacting with customers. Some of you are using it daily, which means you're probably in the weeds. And some of you are just getting to it, but you know who Laura is. No one said, who's Laura? You know, a couple things about Laura. I have to admit, I'm not a big fan of these acronyms. I'm not. I created one, I know, but I'm not a big fan. And here's why. In the moment, I don't think that we think in terms of step one, step two. We just react. So I like the acronym in the background before I deal with a customer or serve an angry customer, or after I've encountered an angry customer, thinking through the steps. In the moment, I just think of Laura. And Laura is based on a real person who's unflappable, who doesn't get upset, who's always kind, and is able to kind of take that abuse and just let it slide much better than I am able to do that. So I keep Laura as a kind of a persona in mind in the moment. And then afterwards, I go back to the acronym and think of the steps. You don't have to use all of the steps in every angry customer interaction. It's a good reminder. So it's great for some of you that had a chance to use this. I had a chance to use it this week via email, which is great. If you get the customer service tip of the week email, then you might remember this week's tip. If you don't receive the email, it's one tip via email once per week. I'm going to put a link here if you'd like to subscribe. Of course, it's free. And this week's tip was about the good cop, bad cop technique. Now, many of you are familiar with this. It's an old police interrogation technique where one cop plays the role of the bad cop, who's kind of abusive and mean to the prisoner. And then the good cop acts as though they're taking the prisoner's side. And the police officers are actually working in concert with each other, but it's a psychological technique that breaks down the prisoner's defenses, makes them more likely to talk and confess. So it's an old interrogation technique. And my customer service tip of the week was how you can use that concept when you're serving angry customers. And the bonus content is basically if a customer's really, really angry at you and you're using the Laura technique and all sorts of other techniques and they still don't work, in the customer's mind, you're the bad cop. No fault of your own, but a very simple technique is simply to move them to another person, and it miraculously will reset the conversation because they become angry at you, even if it's not your fault. So moving to another person that they're not angry can sometimes de-escalate. So that's the technique. Well, one person out of thousands and thousands of subscribers emails me and says, "You're being mean." I shouldn't mock them, but that's how I read it. Like, "You're being mean to police officers." We're going to keep this quiet together, right? We're not going to share this publicly, but that's how I first read it, right? But then my fight or flight instinct, I recognized it. And I said, you know, they might be sending this with good intentions. They might really be offended. So, okay, before I write that email, take a good deep breath, try to understand their perspective, and then respond and use the Laura technique as I'm responding. So I took a moment to write an email acknowledging their perspective, thanking them for their feedback, and trying my best to explain that good cop, bad cop was the name of a technique. And it was in no way being derogatory towards law enforcement or police officers. In fact, I included a link to the history of it. It's more than 100 years old. I certainly didn't invent it. So I really took a lot of care and time to try to respond and hopefully make this person understand, one, I'm not intentionally being derogatory, but two, it's not even a term that most people would consider to be derogatory once you understood the origin. And of course, the person emailed me back and said they're still angry. So you can't make everybody happy, but I had a chance to go through the fight or flight because my initial human reaction was to like, who's this person? That's my human reaction. But then take that deep breath, try to empathize, try to move forward. So at least I didn't make it worse, but it was a challenge for me because like many of you, sometimes that initial reaction that we get as a human, it's not helpful when we encounter an angry customer. So I'm happy that many of you have had this opportunity to use this technique, and then unhappy because I'm sorry you've had some upset customers that you've had to serve. I want to obviously some things are not working with Zoom right now, but chat is, and that's good. If Q&A is working, I want to remind you to submit any questions you have for me via Q&A. If that's not working, I can't see any questions right now, so perhaps it's not. We can use chat, and that's fine. I want to remind myself of a couple other things. Um, oh, here's the other question I had for you. For those of you who have had a chance to use it, would you share via chat your Laura moment, an example of how you used it? And I recognize for some of you that might take a moment or two to type out via chat. So I'm going to be quiet for about 30 seconds. And then I'm going to come back. I'll share a couple other things with the rest of you while people are still typing. But that was some feedback last week. Hey, give us a little more time to type. So I'll be quiet for about 30 seconds. What was your Laura moment if you had a chance to use the technique last week? Okay, some of you might still be typing. I want to acknowledge that. I want to share with you, while some of you are still typing, I know we're dangerously moving into multitasking here. I want to share with you something else. One of the things that some people asked about last time was, how can we have some more opportunities, maybe at a different pace, to discuss with each other and with you, the challenges we're experiencing, ask questions, etc. The webinar format is great, but fast paced. So I want to point something out. This is ongoing. I hope you can see this on your screen. The LinkedIn Learning has a Q&A feature that's attached to every single course, including this one. And I put a question up here or at the beginning of the week, I believe. What are the biggest challenges you're experiencing when serving angry or upset customers? Now, I can post questions. You can post questions too. You can respond to my questions, and you can respond to each other's questions and share experiences. So you might ask a question for advice. You might ask a question just like I am doing. What's your Laura moment? And you'll see that some of the answers are really brief. Other answers are really in depth and more thought out. And we have some really nice conversations going. So I want to make you aware of that feature. And what I will probably do, at least for the next week, post another question. It keeps the dialogue going outside of this webinar. All right, I'm going back to chat now. And let's see if I can use chat. Chat's not working when I'm sharing. This is kind of strange for me. Okay. So awesome. We got at least one using the Laura technique. The great thing about written communication, especially email, but to a certain extent text and chat, is you can type something, and if you're not happy with it, you can erase it. Really hard to do if you say the wrong thing in a live conversation or over the phone, but written communication gives us that advantage. All right, some of you are still typing. That is fine. I'm also a little worried that some of the Zoom features are not working today. We've already discovered a few. I feel a little bit better that it's probably not on my end, since multiple things are not working the way they normally would, but I will be doing more testing after this because there's always the possibility of user error. I would like a chance to answer what questions you might have about the Laura technique or empathy. So if you would, please share them via the chat function or Q&A. I don't see anything in Q&A, but I don't think Q&A is working. If you submitted something via Q&A, it might not be working. At least chat is. I also wanted to share something with you. A lot of you, or some of you at least, last week asked about my book, Getting Service Right, and specifically, where in the book might you learn a little bit more about some of the things that we're covering here. So empathy, which we're talking about, is, where is empathy? I should have mentioned this. This is chapter 9 in the book. I don't know if you can see this, the problem with empathy. And one thing I did So a little hint on the books right now. Amazon is, I don't know about other retailers, but Amazon is taking weeks to ship paperback books out right now. But you can get it on Kindle right now, immediately, instant download. So one thing I'm doing for you, wait until Monday. It starts Monday, and I've included this in the update email. The Kindle version is normally $9.99 or $9.95. I've taken it all the way down to 99 cents. So I want to make this as accessible for you as possible. It's certainly not a requirement, but it's as accessible as possible. So wait until Monday. You can get Getting Service Right on Kindle for 99 cents. And if you get the paperback version or you already have the paperback version, email me with your mailing address, physical mailing address, and let me know what book you have, if it's Getting Service Right or any other book of mine for that matter. And I will send you a personalized book plate that's signed so you can stick it inside of your book and turn it into an autographed edition. So I'm happy to do that. No charge, just want to be of service to you. Doesn't work well with Kindle, but works really well with the paperback version. So if you have one or you order one, I will send that to you. I want to take a look at a couple of your responses via chat, if you will. And again, if you have questions for me, let me know. So I hope you see Janet's example. This is a great example of you're trying to balance the customer's emotions, the accusation, with even some real liability concerns. And it's difficult. It's exceptionally difficult. Janet, it sounds like you handled it so well. I hope things turned out well in this scenario where a customer sustained some vehicle damage. But that sounds like a tough situation, and I'm glad some of these techniques were useful. Also talking about people losing jobs, yeah, that amplifies, you think about the coffee shop scene, for example. There's no way that what she's really upset about is the latte. No way. No way at all, especially if you see the scene all the way to the end where she keeps the cup. By the way, the other example, did anyone notice that? That's real. That happens. When our emotions get inflamed, we get completely irrational. So this idea that people are losing jobs right now, of course they're going to be upset. Of course they're going to be irrational. And it's so great to see that the Laura technique is diffusing that. Let's see what else we've got here. These are great examples. I really appreciate you sharing these. So, okay, I'm taking a moment to read another example. So often customers will either make a mistake or they blame people, or they go off the handle beyond what they should. And so this example about a credit card dispute and the customer really being off the handle and then kind of calming down. And it's a great example. I love this of using the Laura technique to empathize with the customer, make the customer feel like you're on their side. And when it feels like we're on the same side together, the customer instantly, in many cases, starts calming down. So this is great that worked well. And you can say, I'd be alarmed if I were you too. That's great language to say, I'm on your side. Yeah, if you saw this, I can understand why you feel this way. I'm a peppermint person myself. So these are some fantastic examples. Okay, the assignments are coming out later today, along with the video. So I want to use our time to share those with you. Quick preview. Essentially, I'm going to ask you to watch the last few videos in the series. There's only 3. It's a little bit more than 10 minutes. I'm so sorry. Try to keep it to 10 minutes. It's a little bit longer than 10 minutes. I do want to try another poll. I don't think you're going to be able to see this, but let's try, okay? Let's try. I know this is early, but I wanted to see if any of you would be interested in doing another training video club. So we have one more meeting next Friday, and it works. Oh, I see a response. We might be able to see the poll this time. If you cannot see the poll, I want to give you the options that I've put out there and give you a chance to vote on this. And then next week I'll announce what we'll be doing. Oh, it looks like you're able to see this, which is fantastic. So here are the options, and maybe you see this on the screen. The Working with Upset Customers course, there are several stages. The one we've been focusing on is the in the moment. The next stage is service recovery, so we could do that as an option. Another course, we talked about this last time, it was managing customer expectations. That's a pretty short course, but when customers expect you to get back to them right away or fix the world, how can you reset expectations to a more manageable place? We're not doing much face-to-face, so phone-based customer service. And then this is kind of a fun one, innovative customer service techniques that might be a little bit more advanced or take better advantage of customer psychology. So I'm going to leave this up for just 30 more seconds. Let's see who gets the most votes. This is really cool feedback. What I might do is if one gets the most votes, we might do that course and then maybe move to the next one. It looks like managing expectations, getting the most votes, followed by innovative customer service techniques. And then part 2, service recovery. So good to see. Okay, I will end the poll. I will share this with you if I can. See if I can share the results. I hope you can see it, but that's where we are poll-wise for those of you who are able to take the poll. If you were not able to take the poll, any topics you can think of, you can share via chat, or there was the other option. If we don't have one of your favorites up there, you can share it via chat as well. Okay, we have come up on the end of our time together today. I want to be respectful of your time. I will hang on for just a few extra minutes, but we'll call this the formal end to our Friday webinar. Look for the video in an hour or two with next week's assignments, plus some reminders next week. But I'll stick on. If you have more questions for me or want to share more examples via chat, I'm happy to stay late. Otherwise, thank you. Stay healthy, stay safe, and we'll see you next time.